All right, we'll say good morning. Let's begin. The beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. We are picking up on daf Mem Zayin. On daf Mem Zayin. Well, today's daf is Mem Zayin. We're picking up on Mem Vavam with days 46b, and we are picking up the last two lines. Amar Rabbi Lazar. Chatos sheshachta l'shem chulin. We'll say if you have a chatos that you shechted l'shem chulin for the sake of chulin, kshera. The carbon is kosher. Mishum chulin, but if you shechted literally mishum chulin because of chulin, psula. The carbon is possible. Now, what's this distinction? Look at Rashi. This is actually quite fascinating. Second to last line of Rashi. L'shem chulin, she'odeh shechatos. So we said this is a case of a person. I know the carbon I have to bring is a chatos, but yet again, despite that, the shachat l'shem chulin. So we'll say I'm shechting a carbon, and I know it's a chatos, but when I shecht it, I have in mind to shecht it l'shem chulin. Such a carbon is kosher. And that goes back to yesterday's Gemara. That's what we see in yesterday's Gemara. That if you shecht a carbon, and you know for sure it's a carbon, but you shecht it l'shem chulin, that does not in any way erode the sanctity of the carbon. Now, however, again on the flip side, the mishum chulin. They're both saying mishum chulin means as follows. Look at Rashi. Kasavar shehim chulin psula. Both say I shecht the carbon and I made a mistake. I thought the carbon that I'm shechting is chulin. In that case, the carbon is possible. Also, hear the distinction. In case number one, I know the carbon I am shechting is a chatos. I know it's a chatos, but I have in mind to shecht the chulin. That's what don't ask why. That's what I'm doing. Right? I know it's a chatas, but I have in mind to shecht l'shem chulin. That's kosher. If, however, again, I made a mistake, and I forgot that this animal is a carbon chatas, and instead I am shechting it because I think it's a chulin animal, then I will say that's possible. Now, why is that? Rashi says, "Dahainu misasik b'dvarim achirim ve'inu asak b'kachim." Because we will say in that case over here, that's called misasik. We'll say misasik means when you're engaging in an action for a dramatically different intention. In other words, you have absolutely no intention for the real purpose at hand, but misasik means you are involved in this with a totally ulterior motive. So what's this? Hear the distinction? If I know it's a chatas, but I'm just for whatever reason shechting it l'shem chulin, that's kosher. If it's a chatas, but I just made a mistake, I forgot that this is a chatas, totally forgot it's a chatas, and I'm shechting it l'shem chulin, misasik. I'm actively involved in something other than shechting it for a chatas. Under those circumstances, the carbon is possible. We'll say to which the Gemara says, "Kedivayim neishmol Rafuna, Shmuel says Rafuna, top of Mem Zayin, Midayim misasik b'kachim shu possible." How do I know that halacha l'maisa? If someone is misasik b'kachim, look at top Rashi Mem Zayin, misasik b'kachim, shochet kachim v'lo b'kavana, elakim misasik b'dvar machir. We'll say I'm shechting kachim shelo b'kavana. Shelo b'kavana means, again, I have absolutely no intention for kachim. But instead, again, I have intention for something else. The something else in this case is chulin, for example. How do I know that ultimately, again, the carbon is pasal shenamar b'shachat as ben abakar lifnei Hashem? The pasuk says, "You shall shecht the ben abakar, you shall shecht the carbon lifnei Hashem ad shetei shchita l'shem ben bakar." We'll say amazingly enough, the shchita has to be the shem ben bakar, has to be for the sake of a carbon. Now again, to be clear, what this means is as follows. That when you shecht the animal, you have to have in mind that this is for a carbon. Now, as we just saw before, if you had in mind that it's for a carbon, but you had in mind that you're going to do it l'shem chulin, as long as you know that the animal that you are shechting is a carbon, you're good to go. The moment you forget that the animal itself is a carbon, that's called misasik. You're actively involved in something else, and the carbon is not good. So it says the Gemara, Amalei Zibiyadinu. So I know this limud already, meaning we've already learned this before. Li'akev me'abos. How do I know that it's ma'akev? How do I know that halacha l'maisa, if I don't have in mind that I'm shechting for a carbon, how do I know that it's ma'akev, that the carbon is not good? Amalei l'rtzonchem tizbachuhu l'da'atchem zevichu. Because also the pasuk says l'rtzonchem tizbachu, according to your ratzon, with your will you shall shecht it. L'da'atchem tizbachu. It means that you must shecht it with das. So we'll say it's halacha l'maisa again. In order for a carbon to be kosher, the carbon has to be shechted l'shem with the understanding that you are shechting a carbon. If you forget that you are shechting a carbon, that is called misasek. That is called actively being involved in something else. And halacha l'maisa, you are not yotzi. And so I'll just tell you, this in fact is halacha l'maisa. The Rambam Paskin, the Hilchos Psuli HaMukdashim, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel, Hashochet es HaKodshim v'lo niskavin l'shchita. Let's say someone shechts a carbon, and they don't have in mind during the time of the shchita that they're shechting a carbon. That's misasek. Let's say that it's called misasek. Hareilu psulin ad sheis kavin l'shchita. Ultimately, again, the shchita is puzzle until you have in mind ultimately to do it for a carbon. Now that being said, we'll say, watch this. Chata sheshachta l'shem zevach acher. We'll say if when you're shechting a chatos, you have in mind to shecht it for a different carbon. Kigon sheshachta l'shem ola, like you had in mind for an ola. Ola shem asham, ola shem shlam psula, kimo sheve arnu. Aval im shachta l'shem chulin, harizu kshira v'la also l'bayim. So listen to this. So we come out with a very interesting mixture. Number one, halacha l'maisa. When you shecht a carbon, you have to have in mind just for general kavanah, for general basic karbanos. I'm shechting the shem carbon. If you don't have in mind the shem carbon, but you have in mind the shem something else, right? Then what? Then ultimately, again, the carbon is possible. That being said, I was saying, as long as you have basic kavanah that you're shechting a carbon, then if you had in mind for a different carbon other the intended one, that's problematic as we saw. But if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm shechting a carbon, but I want this carbon to be l'shem chulin, which I would say is a strange type of das because it seems to be contradictory, that does not impact the carbon. The carbon will still be kosher. It will not satisfy your carbonic obligation, but the carbon will still be kosher. So we'll say what emerges from this sugya is a very important idea about kavanah. I will say this comes up all the time. Shulchan Aruch paskins mitzvos tzrichos kavanah, which means we paskin that halacha l'maisa, when you do a mitzvah in order to discharge your obligation requires kavanah. Let's say the big shaila is, what's the definition of kavanah? So the way we paskin in general is that what we call situational kavanah is enough. In other words, as long as you have basic generic kavanah that you have in mind to perform a mitzvah, and your circumstances are such that it's clear that your intention is to perform the mitzvah, that's enough. That, obviously not ideal, we want more kavanah, but that's enough. Where do I get into a problem? With misasek. I'll say the issue with misasek is when it's clear from my circumstances that I'm involved in a different type of behavior, that's when things become a bit more complicated. So for example, if I'm going ahead and, practicing my knife throwing, right? And it happens to be that I'm so good that when I did my knife throwing, I shechted an animal. So we'll say, so that's what this problem, let's say again it was a carbonic animal, that's where it's problematic. Because again, there's nothing clear for my circumstances that I had in mind for kavanah. As long as I have situational kavanah, I'm good. But the moment that I'm misasek, that it's clear that I'm actively really involved in something else, just a byproduct of my something else was a different type of circumstance, then there's no kavanah in that. So halacha l'maisa, the Gemara says as follows, that when it comes to karbanos avosai, I just have to have in mind that I'm shechting a carbon. That's the basic kavanah I have to have. Even if I say I'm shechting the carbon l'shem chulin, amazingly enough, what's the status of the carbon? It's still good. Why? Because I had in mind that I'm shechting carbon. Where does the problem come up? If I have in mind that I'm shechting my own animal because I want to make a barbecue, and then it turns out that was a carbonic animal, then what? Then that's not good. Because then there's no basic carbonic kavanah. So that's not local nice on the sugi there. So the Gemara goes weiter. Because remember again, the Mishnah ended off by saying that the machshava only follows after the oved, only follows after the one doing the avodah. So also remember again, this was our Mishnah over here that we just saw on the base, said that halacha l'maisa, when you shecht a carbon, l'chatchila, a person should have these 6 forms of kavanah. Now afterwards, remember again, Rabbi Yossi said it's okay, even if he didn't have these kavanahs, it's okay because it's a Tanai Beis Din. Right? Beis Din legislates it as if what? As if I did have that kavanah. That's enough. So Rabbi Yossi ends off by saying, She'ina machshava holeches ela achar ha'oved. So also Rabbi Yossi ends off by saying, because everyone knows that the kavanah goes after the person doing the avodah, which sounds like the Kohen. That everything goes after the kavanahs of the Kohen. Says the Gemara, Masnisin de lo ki Tana. Our Mishnah does not reflect the view of the following Tana. Disanya, Amr Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say, so remember, our Mishnah is saying that whose kavanas impact the effectiveness of the carbon? It's only the Kohen, right? We're the one doing the avoda. The kavanas of the bailim, of the owner, really makes no difference in the carbon. Once it's handed over to the Kohen, his machshavas are what dictate the effectiveness of the carbon. So watch this. So the Gemara says now over here, our Mishnah clearly does not reflect the following time. This Sanya, Amr Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi, Shamati Shahabailim Mefaglim. So we'll say Rabbi Elazar said the name Rabbi Yossi, I heard that the owners can make the carbon pigul as well. How could the owner make the carbon pigul? Amar Rabba, my time is Rabbi Elazar. We'll say how ultimately again, what is Rabbi Elazar's logic? We'll say take a look at Rashi. Rashi says over here. No, not yet. I'm sorry. So the Gemara says, what's the reason of Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Elazar. I'm sorry. What's the reason of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi who says that even the owners can make the carbon pigul? Do Amakra vehikriv hamakriv. Because I will say the pasuk says literally vehikriv. He will offer up the makriv, the one offering it. Rashi says over here vehikriv hamakriv karbano beparshas nesachim ksiv vehikriv hamakriv karbano laHashem alma makriv karbano karile. Makriv should say makriv karbano karile. Hilcham avilu bechlal hamakriv lo yichashes. Also listen to this. Remember this pasuk is I'll say last week parsha. This is by the Nesim, by the karbanos of the Nesim. So when the Torah refers to the karbanos of the Nesim, it uses the lashon of the hikriv hamakriv karbano laHashem. Ultimately, again, the makriv will go ahead and bring. No, I'm sorry, this is not by the Nesim. This is not by the Nesim. This is later on. So the hikriv hamakriv. So we'll say, amazingly enough, what it's saying over here is it's calling the owner the makriv. It's calling the owner the makriv, telling me that the owner is considered to be like the one who offers up the carbon. Which then tells me what? Which then tells me that if the owner has erroneous mindset, pigul mindset by the carbon, he could negatively impact the carbon as well. So the Gemara says, Amar Abaye, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say, so now again, we see something dramatically amazing here, which is as follows: that according to Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi, the owner has the ability to affect pigul in the carbon through his machshavas. That if the owner has a machshavas pigul, that can literally make the carbon that can make the carbon pigul. So the Gemara now says, Abaye says, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shmuel Elazar, Kulu Sirlu, Ze Mechashev, Ze Oved, Havya Machshava. We'll say all of the opinions are of the same school of thought, namely that halacha lemaisa Ze Mechashev. If the owner has his machshava, v'zeh oved, even though again the Kohen is doing the avoda, havya machshava. Ultimately, the owner has the ability to render the carbon unfit through his machshavas. So we'll say now this is a dramatic shita, not in accordance with our Mishnah. According to our Mishnah, we'll say who has the ability to make the carbon pigul or invalidate the carbon in general is the Kohen. Only the one doing the avoda has the ability to go ahead and make the carbon pigul. Make the carbon pigul. Now what happens? The Gemara is saying. Now it says the Gemara that halacha l'maisa, according to these opinions, even the owner has the ability to make the carbon pigul. So Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi we just said. So Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi Hada Amar. So Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi he learns out from the phrase of the hikriv hamakriv. The hikriv hamakriv. That ultimately, again, the fact that we call the makriv, the owner bringing the carbon, we call him the hikriv, tells me that he has the status of the one bringing the carbon. Therefore, his machshava could go to make the carbon pigul as well. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar, where do we see Rabbi Eliezer? He says, Disnan, hashochet la'ovid kochavim shikaso kshira. Also, listen to this. If one shechts a carbon on behalf of an ovid kochavim, on behalf of an akum, the shchita is good. They're both saying, now this we know already. Halach l'maisa, an akum can bring a carbon, right? A Gentile could bring a carbon. Obviously, he can't actively bring it, but he could send the carbon to the Beis HaMikdash. The Kohen could offer it up on his behalf. So, and it's kosher. Rabbi Eliezer posel. Rabbi Eliezer says, no, such a carbon is possible. Rabbi said, now why does he say it's possible? Look at Rashi. Rabbi Eliezer posel. Hassam mefarish behedja shestam machshavas avodas kochav stam machshavas ovid kochavim la'avodas kochavim. Also, listen to this. Rabbi Eliezer says that an Ovid Kochavim, in general, has in mind for what? Has in mind for his avodah zarah. Therefore, if the Ovid Kochavim gives the Kohen a carbon to offer up, we have to assume that what? He really has in mind for what? For his avodah zarah. And therefore, again, the carbon is possible. So we'll say, what do you see from here? What do you see from here? You see that halacha l'maisa, that the machshava of the owner has the ability to invalidate the carbon itself. So we'll say, so first of all, this is just interesting in general, because the Rishonim ask on Rabbi Eliezer, if that's the case, then how does an akum ever bring a carbon? I will say, we know that halacha l'maisa, an akum has the ability to bring a carbon. We know that. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it's easy that it's an impossibility. So the Rishonim discuss how it could come up. Rabbi Shimon Elazar, so we'll say, so again, this is the second opinion who holds that the machshava of the owner has the ability to invalidate the carbon. Next, Rabbi Shimon Elazar, we'll say, what's Rabbi Shimon Elazar's position? This nan, Klal Amar Rabbi Shimon Elazar. We'll say, this is actually very interesting. This is by Hilchos Shabbos. Kol she'in kasher lahatzniya, ve'in matzniyin kamo. We'll say, now listen to this. In general, the halacha is as follows. In order to be chayiv for otzah, in order to be chayiv for carrying something, let's say from one domain to another, or dalet amas and shesarabim, so we'll say you have to carry something that is significant. If it's not significant, then one is not chayiv ultimately for carrying it. So therefore again, kol shin kashalatzniyah, something that's not normally stored, ve'in matzniyin kamo, and people do not store things like this, you would not normally go ahead and be chayiv for hotzah, right? So Rashi gives the example of blood. Right, of blood, right? Or something that's asr ba'na. People don't normally store it, and therefore if you were to carry it, you would not be chayiv on Shabbos. Now watch this. Huchshar lazeh v'itzniyah. Let's say Ruvain has an item. We'll call it object A. Let's say object A is insignificant. No one stores it. No one stores it. Except Ruvain. Ruvain now decides he wants to be a collector of object A. He decides to store it. V'itzniyah, he hides it away, meaning he stores it away. Uba achar v'itzniyah. We'll say now what happens? Shimon comes along, and Shimon now takes object A, and he carries it dalet am. He carries it from shesayach to shesarabi. We'll say what's the halacha? Nischayiv zeh b'machshava shel zeh. Ultimately, I will say Shimon is chayiv for otzah. Why? Why? Because I will say Ruvain's machshava vested the object with significance. The fact that Ruvain went ahead and stored it away said that object A is chashiv. Ruvain's machshava endowed it with significance, and therefore Shimon is chayiv for carrying a significant item ultimately on Shabbos. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see from here the machshavas of the owner ultimately go ahead and invest an object with significance. The machshavas of an owner make a difference. So we'll say now we have three examples of this idea of where the machshava of an owner can invest an item with significance. You have Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi, ultimately who holds v'haikriv hamakriv, that even if the owner has a machshavas pigul and the Kohen does not, that can make the carbon pigul. We saw Rabbi Shimon Elazar, right? Rabbi Shimon Elazar holds that what? He holds, Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer holds that what? That you can't bring the carbon from an akum, because stam akum has machshava for avodah zarah. And lastly, Rabbi Shimon Elazar holds that what? That if Ruvain holds that an item is significant and Shimon carries it out, that Shimon will be chayiv for hotzah, even though Shimon holds that this is not a significant item. To which the Gemara says as follows: Tarvayu is lehu to Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say ultimately again both of them hold. So the other two opinions, both of Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yossi, hashta b'chutz amrinan b'fnim miboy. So they will say as follows: the halacha l'maisa b'chutz, right? B'chutz will say is the case of avodah zarah and Shabbos. If this concept that the owner's das is significant by things like b'chutz, which I will say first avodah zarah and Shabbos, certainly b'fnim, certainly when it comes to karbanos, so the machshavas of the owner will be significant. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, less l'utarai, because Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi might not hold to the other two. Why? Dilma b'fnimhu da'aminan b'chutz laminan. Because also maybe this concept that the machshava of the owner is only significant is only a din also by karbanos. Maybe it doesn't apply in other circumstances. Rabbi Shimon Elazar is slave Rabbi Eliezer. So also Rabbi Shimon Elazar will hold the Rabbi Elazar. Why? Hashta b'Shabbos aminan ba'avodas kochav mibai. Because if you're going to go hold of this idea that the machshava of the owner is significant by Shabbos, then what? Certainly, again, it will work by Akum, work by Avodas Kochavim. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar, let's say Rabbi Shimon Elazar. But Rabbi Elazar does not say Rabbi Shimon Elazar. Why so? Dilma ba'avodas kochavim hudamin came ifnim. Maybe it only applies by an Akum, because it will say Avodah Zara. This sounds strange, but resembles actual avodah. Aval Shabbos malachas machshavas asra Torah. Now by Shabbos you need a malachas machshavas, a constructive malacha, and therefore again maybe he doesn't subscribe to this view. So we'll say the point over here is even though all three of these opinions, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, and Rabbi Eliezer all hold of the same idea, they may not agree with one another. In other words, each of them are holding that the machshava, the kavanah of an owner, is significant vis-a-vis an item. They're saying it in three different contexts. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi is saying it in the context of karbanos. Rabbi Eliezer is saying it in the context of an akum, and Rabbi Shimon Elazar is saying it in the context of Shabbos. Now we are grouping them all together to form a cohort of rabbinic opinions who hold that halacha l'maisa, the machshava of the owner, impacts the object. All the Gemara is just pointing out is that what? They may not actually agree with one another. And I will say now, for our purposes, it's interesting, but it doesn't matter halacha l'maisa because we do not paskin this way. We do not pass. So I will say. So remember again. Let's loop this back for our discussions, for our purposes. Why is this important? Because I will say, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. Sorry, I keep saying that. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that an owner has the ability to make the carbon pigul. We'll say we do not paskin that way. We do not subscribe to that shita. We hold the only person who can make the carbon pigul. So Rabbi Elazar is the Kohen himself who is doing the avodah. The owner. Now again, I take that back. The owner can make the carbon pigul if what? If it's the owner who's doing the shchita. So if the owner is doing the shchita, then he can have machshavas pigul, he can make. But again, if we're just assuming about the machshava of the owner, assuming that he is doing no part of the avodah, under those circumstances he does not have the ability to go ahead and make the carbon pigul. So we'll say Hadrun Aloch Beishamai Mazel Tov. We'll say now I meant to actually WhatsApp this out. We are about to start something very exciting. We are about to start the parak of Ezehu Makoma. Now this is very exciting. Why? Because I will say we say this every single morning. Yes, we do. We say this. That was a declarative statement. We say this every single morning. Yeah, I just want to make something clear. It wasn't the pshat that like they printed the siddur and they said, oh no, there are 4 empty pages. Right? What could we put in here as some filler? Let's put in Ezehu Makoma. We'll say we're going to that. On a serious note, the reason why this is going to be, we'll learn obviously Ochos Kapanos, but also have an opportunity to enhance our tefillah experience as well. So let's begin this Mishnah, and then we'll speak it out a little bit on the outside as well. Se'ezu mekaman shel Zevachim. So we'll say, so actually, the Mishnah starts out with a very simple idea. He says as follows. Okay, we'll come on. Se'ezu mekaman shel Zevachim. We'll say now, we're talking over here about the actual placement. In other words, where does the sacrificial service actually take place in the Beis HaMikdash? Literally, what is the makom of Zevachim? What is the makom, I will say, where sacrificial service takes place in the Beis HaMikdash? So the Gemara, the Mishnah says, it depends. Kodshei Kadashim. So we'll say, ultimately again, Kodshei Kadashim, we'll say, now we've talked about this before, and we'll get into this more. Kodshei Kadashim means karbanos of the highest sanctity. So Rashi says, Kulam Bichlal, Chatos, Ashamos, Ola, Shalmi, Sibor. So we'll distinguish between the various categories. But again, just to understand what's in the category of Kodshei Kadoshim, Chatas, Asham, Ola. So we'll see what happens with them. Shchitasim with Safon. They are shechted in the northern part of the Beis HaMikdash. Par v'Sar Yom Kippurim. We'll say, so the Par and the Sar Yom Kippur. These are Yom Kippur offerings. The Par and the Sar Yom Kippur. Shchitasim with Safon. They too are shechted in the north. The Kibul Daman Bekli Sharis with Safon. And their blood is also received in a klisharis. So remember again, klisharis is a temple utensil in the north as well. The damum taun hazaya abein habodim va'ala paroches va'amizbach hazah. Now we'll say, now this is by Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur, what do we do with the blood applications? There's a number of blood applications. The blood has to be sprinkled bein abadim. We'll say bein abadim refers between the poles of the arum. This refers to the fact that on Yom Kippur, there is a sacrificial sprinkling that takes place inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, inside the Holy of Holies. So it has to be done between the poles of the Aron. Va'ala paroches, on the cover, on the curtain, right? This dividing between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Va'al mizbach hazav. And there is also a blood sprinkling that takes place on the golden altar, which we'll say is what? Is the Mizbeach HaKetoras, the incense altar, which is inside the base, inside the Kodesh. Matan achas me'akeves. The Bible says actually another very important halacha, which is, if you miss one of the blood applications, it is ma'akev. It is ma'akev. We already saw this a few days ago about the 43, 44, or 48 blood applications. The machlok is how many blood applications there are. The one thing is clear, which is, no matter how many you hold there are, what has to happen? All of them are required to be done. And if you miss any one of them, it potentially invalidates the avodah. Shiyari hadam, hayeshofech al yisod ma'aravi sham mizbeach hachisa. We'll say if you have leftover blood, any leftover blood is spilled ultimately again on the western base of the outer mizbeach. So this is the outer mizbeach, the large mizbeach used for animal sacrifice. As we will discuss, along the western side of that mizbeach, there was what's called the yisod. The yisod ultimately is a base. It was a protrusion from the base, but there was also a drain there. You would pour the leftover blood there, and it would drain. Both said this is as opposed to which drain? Opposed to which drain? The drain in the azara, the drain in the courtyard, which again, there was also blood that was spilled out over there, but that not sacrificial blood. What we call shirayim, which is the leftover of sacrificial blood, that's poured down the drain by the western side, by the western drain of the mizbeach. But I will say, if you did not pour out the shirayim by the western drain, it's not makif. So I will say this is actually very, so by the way, which makes sense, because if we've been operating with one principle throughout our entire time of Kabbalah, so we'll say it's what? It's that the ikar is the hazo, so the sprinkling. Once the sprinkling is done, you're good. Now the difference by Yom Kippur is there are many sprinklings, 43, 44, 48, right? There are many sprinklings. And those sprinklings, those hazos are ma'akiv. If you miss any one of those sprinklings, then what? Then your carbon is compromised. The beauty, however, is that what? That once the sprinklings are done, you're good. See, even though when it comes to Yom Kippur, you take the leftover blood, the shirayim, and you pour them down. The yisod ma'aravi shel mizbeach hachitzon, the western base of the outer mizbeach. That's what the avodah is supposed to be. If for some reason you didn't do that, we'll say can mean you forgot, the blood spilled, right? Your coin tripped and the blood spilled all over the place. Halach so that's not ma'akev. Good. So that's Yom Kippur. Next, parim hanisrafim u'si'irim hanisrafim. Suppose if you look at Rashi, what is this? So parim are cows or bulls that are burnt, or se'irim. Rashi says. We'll say first of the widest lines of Rashi, and the line parim hanisrafim. We'll say this refers to par ha'elam. We'll say this refers ultimately again par ha'elam davim min hatzibor, which again we are experts on from our hurriest days, right? Par ha'elam davim min hatzibor, which means what? The Sanhedrin delivered an erroneous ruling. What happens? People acted on that ruling for something that would normally be chayiv, misa, chayiv kares. So what happens when they realize their mistake? They bring the par ha'elam davim min hatzibor, or Rashi says par kohen Mashiach. Well, so the par kohen Mashiach pretty much is the same thing as the par ha'elam davim min hatzibor. Just what? Instead of the Sanhedrin delivering the ruling, it was the kohen gadol. So I'll say, so what happens? Now these karbanos, she'ein ne'achalim, the kohen, we'll say, now remember, this par ha'elam davim min hatzibor and par kohen Mashiach, they are not eaten, they're not consumed. Ela nisrafin chutz liyushayin k'dichsiv, bohu el shefach hadeshin yisarif, v'al sinan b'seder yoma shuchos yushayin. Now we will see, so the par ha'elam nisrafin, the cows, the two cow offerings, the two bull offerings, which is the par ha'elam davim min hatzibor and the par kohen Mashiach, they are not eaten. Instead, they're shechted, blood applications, and in fact, what we will see is they are actually burned outside of the Beis HaMikdash. So that's Parim HaNisrafim, or Se'irim HaNisrafim. Rashi says, second to last line on the daf, Se'irim HaNisrafim, Rashi, Se'iri Avodas Kochavim, Shehuk Shulu Par Ha'elam, Davar L'chol Divreim Parak Beis Meshar. So let's say, so the Parim HaNisrafim are the Parim that are brought for communal Avodah Zarah. Excuse me, the Se'irim that are brought. The goats that are brought for communal avodah zarah. So we'll say back to the Mishnah. Next category. Parim hanisrafim. We'll say, remember again. What are the two cows? Let's review. Let's chazer. What are the two cows? Number one, par ha'elam davar shel tzibor, and number two, Par Kohen Mashiach. These two parim, or Seirim Hanesrafim. We'll say which Seirim we're talking about. The communal offerings for, I should say, the Seirim for communal Avodah Zarah. Shchitas Mitzafon. They're shechted in the north of the Beis Hamikdash. The Kibul Daman B'Kli Sharetz Mitzafon. And their blood is received also in a Kli in the northern part of the Beis Hamikdash. V'da'um Taun Hazaya ala Parochas al Mizbach Hazav. Therefore, you have to sprinkle their blood on the Parochas, on the curtain of the Kodesh, curtain between the Kodesh and Kodesh Kodashim, and on the golden altar, on the Mizbeach HaKetores, on the base, Matona Achos Mehen Me'akeves. So we'll say ultimately again, if you forget any of the blood applications, it is Ma'akev. So we'll say again, in general we see that. If you forget any of the Azos, any of the blood applications, it is Ma'akev, the carbon will not be good. Shiyari Hadam, Hayashofech Al Yisod Ma'aravi, Shem Mizbeach HaChitzon. We'll see any leftover blood from the parin or from the seirin is poured out where? You pour it out a Yisod Ma'aravi Shem Mizbeach HaChitzon. We'll say you pour it out by the western base, the western drain of the outer Mizbeach, the large animal Mizbeach. V'im lo nasan, but if you did not pour out the remnants of the sacrificial blood by the base of the Mizbeach, lo ikev. It's okay. It's okay. You can't miss a blood application. You can't miss a hazah. But if you, for some reason, don't pour out the leftover blood by the base, it's okay. The carbon is good. Elu v'yana. Now, what's unique about these karbanos? Elu ve'elu. Which means again the parin, which means the par helam davar shel tzibor, the par kohen Mashiach, and the seirim, which means the seirim of avodah zarah, nisrafin abeis hadeshen. We'll say, as we will discuss, what is unique about these karbanos is they are not burnt in the Beis Hamikdash itself, but rather again after the shechita is done and the blood applications are done, they are burned in a place outside of the Beis Hamikdash, what we call the Beis Hadeshen, the place where the ash is taken to as well. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Nisrafin Beis Hadeshen, L'makom Shol Tzien Shames Hadeshen, Shel Mizbeach HaChitzon. They are burnt in the place where the ash is taken from the Mizbeach. D'chsiv Bei V'otziu Es Hadeshen Al Michutz LaMachaneh. U'bepar Nisrafin Ksiv Al Shefach Hadeshen V'shem Kippurim Hikish L'par Ha'elam Davar Kitamina Paragli Shamai L'par Zeh Paragli. So we'll say this is just Exeris HaKasav. It's just again, it's a pasuk that tells us that for whatever the reason, these karbanos are not burnt inside the Beis Hamikdash. Rather, after the blood applications, they are burnt outside of the Beis Hamikdash, a place what we call the Beis Hadesh, when the ash is taken. But says the Gemara, "V'nisni nami kibul daman b'kli sharet." This is really fascinating. So I don't understand. Why don't we also say by Kachi Kadoshim? So by Kachi Kadoshim, if you notice again, so the Mishnah just said. Shchitas mitzafon. By Kachi Kadashim, they're shechted in the north. Why doesn't it also say that what? Kibul daman b'kli shares mitzafon. Why doesn't it also say that their blood is received in a kli shares in the north as well? Why does it just say that the shechita is in the north, but doesn't say anything about receiving their blood in a kli shares in the north? To which the Gemara says is amazing. Kevan diika asham mitzora de kibul damo biyadu shairi. So ultimately, again, because there's an exception, there is a Kachi Kadashim, which Rabbi said is the Asham of the Mitzorah, where the Kohen does not receive the blood in a Kli, but instead he receives the blood in his hand. Therefore, again, it doesn't mention Kibul Daman B'Kli Sharis B'Tzafon. So also what the Gemara seems to be saying over here is as follows, that there is a case of Kachi Kadashim where the blood is not received in a Kli in the north. Instead, the blood is received in the hand of the Kohen. What's the case of a carbon where the blood is not received in a utensil but is received in his hand? It appears that it is the Asham Mitzorah, the Mitzorah's Asham offering. The person has to ask his Asham offering. So because of that, the Mishnah doesn't want to make a declarative statement that every single time you have a Kachi Kadashim, Shchitasam Mitzafon, Kibul Dam Kli Sharis Mitzafon, when in fact that's not always the case. The Gemara says below, is that true? That the blood of the Asham of the Mitzorah, right? The blood of the Asham Mitzorah is not received in a Kli. V'ha'katanila. Look, come on, also we learned later on. Asham Nazir, v'Asham Mitzorah. There was the Asham of a Nazir and the Asham of a Mitzorah. Shchitas Mitzafon. We'll say they are shechted in the north of the Beis Hamikdash. V'kibul daman b'kli shareis b'tzafon. We'll say it says explicitly that what? That you receive their blood in a kli shareis, in a temple utensil, in the north of the Beis Hamikdash. So what are you talking about? It's explicit that the blood of the Asham Mitzorah is received in a Kli Sharis, is received in its service utensil in the north of the Beis Hamikdash. So watch this. Meikara Savar, Kibul Damo Biyadu, Shairi, V'chivan de lo Sagile Ela B'Kli, Hadar Tanye. So we'll say, so watch this. So apparently there was a little bit of Tanaic confusion. In the beginning, the Tana thought that for the Asham Mitzorah, the Kohen does not receive the blood in a Kli. Rather, he receives the blood in his hand. Therefore, again, our Mishnah chose to leave it out. Therefore, our Mishnah just said that what? That Kachek Adashim Shchitasim B'Tzafon, but didn't what? Didn't say the Kibul Daman B'Kli Sharis B'Tzafon. Why? Because there's a case of Asham Mitzorah, which is Kachek Adashim, which the blood is not received in a Kli Sharis in the north. So because, again, that was the exception, we didn't want to state a rule where there's an exception to the rule. But yet what? But yet later on, the Tana said, no, incorrect. We do receive the blood of the Asham Mitzorah, the blood of the Asham Mitzorah, even in a Kli Sharis in Savon. Hadar Tanyi, Desanya, Velakach. So we'll say, listen to this. So later on, the Tana realized that, no, it's incorrect. We do receive the blood of the Asham Mitzorah in the Kli Sharis, in the north of the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore again they stated it. Rabbi say, watch this. This sign here. Rabbi say, so the obvious shaila is, why the confusion? Right? First of all, Rabbi say, I could see that your carbonic antenna went up, because Lemay said, what a strange idea. Whoever heard of this? The Kohen receives blood with his hands. In other words, Rabbi say, we've always assumed that Kabbalah, which is one of the primary blood avodos, is always done b'kli. Where have we ever heard that the Kohen is receiving blood with his hand? Watch this, Moshe. This is amazing. This is really amazing. Desanya. Lakach, Moshe, the pasuk says, now again, Moshe, this is by the Mitzorah. The pasuk says, let me just read you the pasuk as follows. The Lakach HaKohen midama Asham, the Kohen will take of the blood of the Asham, the Nasan HaKohen al Tunuch Ozan HaMetahera Yimanis, V'al Bohen Yadoa Yimanis, V'al Bohen Raglamis. We'll say this pasuk is talking about the Kohen's blood applications to the earlobe, the thumb, and the toe of the Mitzorah. So we'll say, so now watch this. The pasuk says, the Lakach, he shall take it, Yachol B'Kli. So I'm going to thought the Kohen takes the blood with the Kli. Therefore we'll say, there are two verbs in this pasuk. V'lakach and v'nasan. He shall take it and he shall place it. Ma'nesina ba'atzmo shal kohen. We'll say, just as the nesina, right, the placing of the blood on the Mitzorah is done with what we'll say, is done with the Kohen's hand, is done biyad. Ma'nesina ba'atzmo shal kohen. Aflekicha ba'atzmo shal kohen. So to we'll say, just like the placement of the blood is done with the actual hand of the Kohen, so to the lekicha, the taking of the blood, is also done with the hand of the Kohen. Yachal aflam is be'achkin. I might have thought that means that the blood that is to be applied on the mizbeach should also be received by the hand of the Kohen. Is that true? Also meaning, so, well, see, now what you seem to be telling me is, just as the Kohen places the blood of the Mitzorah with his hand, so too he receives the blood with his hand as well. So I might have thought that applies to the blood. Not only the blood that's applied to the Mitzorah, but the blood that's also placed on the mizbeach. Talmud Lomar, ki kachatos ha'asham. We'll say, therefore, the pasuk says that the asham of the Mitzorah should be like the chatos. Ma chatos to unekli, just like the chatos, the blood has to be received in a kli. Af asham ta'un kli, so to asham also requires a kli. So we'll say, so what's going on over here? So does the Kohen receive the blood in his hand, or does he receive it in the kli? And the answer is yes. Ata Omer, here we go. Asham Mitzorah, we'll say, this is so exciting. Asham Mitzorah, Shnei Kohanim Mekablin Es Damo. We'll say, watch this, amazing. Turns out that the Asham Mitzorah requires the involvement of two Kohanim. Echad Biyad, ve'echad Bikli. They both say, this is amazing. There are two acts of Kabbalah when it comes to the blood of the Asham Mitzorah. Two Kohanim involved. One Kohen does Kabbalah Biyad, he receives the blood with his hand, and the other Kohen receives the blood in a Kli Sharis. Watch this. Zeshe Kiblo B'Kli Balo Eitzom Mizbeach. So the Kohen ultimately, again, who receives the blood in a Kli, the Kohen who receives the blood in a service utensil in a Kli Sharis. So we'll say, what does he do with that blood? He takes that to the Mizbeach. That's the Mizbeach blood. Mizbeach blood, which is Avoda blood, always requires a kli sharis. So the Kohen who's going to do the avodah with the blood of the Asham and Soda, he receives it in the kli, and then he takes that kli, it does this bringing on the mizbeach, and watch this. So zesha bakiblo b'kli bala etzim mizbeach. The zesha kiblo b'yad bala etzim Soda. And the one ultimately again will say what? Who receives it in his hands? That's the Kohen who takes that blood and does the blood applications on the mitzora. So we'll say, so it turns out amazingly enough that Asham Mitzora actually has 2 blood applications done by 2 Kohanim. One Kabbalah done biyad, one Kabbalah done bikli. The Kabbalah done bikli ultimately again is used for the azot, sprinkling on the mizbeach. The Kabbalah done by yad is done for the applications ultimately again to the Mitzora himself. I will say now looping back, now we understand ultimately again why it's not included in the Mishnah. So remember again, the Gemara's question on the Mishnah is, the Mishnah says, what's the placement of the shchita of Kachei Kadashim? Shchitasim Mitzafon, the shechted in the north. The Gemara asks, why doesn't it say the kibul daman b'kli sharis Mitzafon? Also say you received the blood in a kli sharis in the north as well. To which the Gemara wanted to suggest you can, because Asham Mitzora is part of Kachei Kadashim, but yet again you don't have Kabbalah b'kli sharis Mitzafon. The Gemara says, is that true? So I will say, so what comes out is, it is true, but it's not true. Meaning, there is Kabbalah b'kli b'tzafon as well. But what? There's also Kabbalah biyad. So because there's also this Kabbalah biyad, so the Mishnah doesn't include the general statement of shchitas and b'tzafon. The Gemara says, the Mishnah shchitas and b'tzafon, but what? Doesn't say the kibul dama b'kli sharis b'tzafon. We'll say, so that explains this. So we'll say, so I'll just say something very interesting, just about Ezu Makoman. So the Shulchan Aruch brings down in Siman Nun, brings down the Seder of Rav Amram Gon, Shekavo Lomar Perek Ezu Mekaman Achar Parshas Kaman. So we'll say, remember again, so Rav Amram Gon, so back to the times of the Geonim already, that they instituted the practice of saying Ezu Mekaman, this parak of Zevachim, as part of our daily davening. Why? Kedei sheyilmat kol adam mikra u'mishnah. U'beparak zeh yesh minyanei hakavana. So we'll say ultimately the goal is, there's a twofold goal. The goal is number one, that in the morning we have immediate Talmud Torah, Mikra, Chumash, as well as Mishnah. There's a simultaneous goal of what? Reciting Karbanos. Why is there a simultaneous goal of reciting Karbanos? On the Shalma Parim Sfasim. If we can't yet bring Karbanos, when we read the Psukim of the Karbanos, it's as if we have the opportunity to offer them. So 2 simultaneous objectives going on over here. I want to learn Chumash and Mishnah in the morning, but I also want to recite Kabbalah. So we'll say the amazing part is we accomplish both objectives together. How so? When we recite the sections of the Karbanos, which again, what do you have to recite in the morning? At least the Parsha of the Kior, the Parsha of the Tamid, the Parsha Sakitores. When you say those things, number one, I'm getting Karbanos, but what? I'm also getting Chumash. Rav Amram Gon said, okay, let's also recite the parak of Ezuhu Mekoman. This year we'll say, what else am I getting? Remember, as we're going to see, Ezuhu Mekoman has all of the Karbanos. I'm also going to get all of the Karbanos, and what? And Mishnayos. So we'll say, but listen to this. The Ateres Sekinin, his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, writes as follows. He says, but why Ezuhu Mekoman? There are other prakim. Why Ezuhu Mekoman? This is so beautiful. Lefi she'ein b'chol osa perek machlokes. So you're going to see something dramatically amazing in these Mishnayos, which is, there's no machlokes. There's no machlokes in these Mishnayos. As you saw again, no, this one said this one said that. There's no machlokes. So we'll say there's a third objective. So what do we get out of Ezu Mekoman? I get out of Ezu Mekoman, number one, I get Karbanos. Number two, what else do I get? Mishnah. And number three, I learn how to start my day right. How do I start my day right? We'll say, no machlokes. No machlokes. That a Jew strives for one sin, it's not always attainable, as we all know. It's not always attainable, but at least as an aspiration, at least as a goal, to try to live a life that's devoid of machlokes, or better stated, truth is nobody can live a life devoid of machlokes. At least if I could try to avoid machlokes to the best of my ability. I start with a parak of Mishnayos, the one parak of Mishnayos that doesn't have machlokes, with the hope that ultimately, again, I could set the tone for the avoidance of machlokes throughout my day. I want to stop over here.